We died. Not fast, not clean. We died screaming outside a locked gate while the people inside stood at the window and watched. All 7 of us. And right before everything went dark, I finally understood why our lives had never worked. Not bad luck, not God testing us. They were stealing our luck, stealing it every year, quietly, while we smiled at their faces and called them family. My name is Tessa, and this is the story of what happened when we came back. 10 years ago, we had nothing special, but we had enough. Matthew worked construction, I handled accounts for a small company. Robert and Julia, Matthew's parents, ran a small poultry farm. The triplets were young, loud, happy. It wasn't a rich life, but it was ours. A few months after our wedding, my parents died in a car accident. No warning, no time to say goodbye. One moment I had somewhere else to go, someone else to call, and the next, that entire part of my life was just gone. After that, Matthew's family became my only family. My in-laws always treated me like their own daughter. They were devastated by the news, and their love for me grew even more. Then the relatives started showing up more often. Matthew's uncle, Tyson, his cousins, Bryce and Carl, his Aunt Mira. They smiled at everything, hugged too long, said all the right things. We thought we were lucky to have such family. We were not lucky. We were targets. While our meals got smaller, Tyson's house got larger. He renovated that year. New kitchen, new car in the driveway. Nothing remarkable about the timing unless you knew what I know now. I need to tell you about Chloe before I tell you anything else, because without Chloe, nothing makes complete sense. Chloe is my cousin. Same grandparents, same last name, same starting line. She was bright, genuinely bright. She worked hard, she tried. She just always came second. Primary school, I placed first, she placed third. Secondary school, 7 places behind me. University, I finished top of my cohort, she finished middle of hers. Then a master's. Then I completed a PhD at 26. That was apparently the thing that finally broke whatever Chloe had been holding together. I didn't know this at the time. I was proud. I called my mother, I called Matthew. We were dating at the time, and after my PhD, we planned to tie the knot. I did not call Chloe. What I didn't know was that she had been watching every step I took for 20 years, cataloging, comparing, building something inside herself that I had no name for, because I had never once looked at another person's life with that particular hunger. In her eyes, I had everything good on a silver platter. Good parents, loyal boyfriend, even good grades. Some people are motivated by wanting more for themselves. Chloe was motivated by wanting less for me. Instead of getting better herself, she wanted to take from me. There is a difference. It is an important difference. That specific quality, that particular flavor of malice, was what I later learned was made her eligible for something, a system. I didn't know the name of it yet. I would. I remember sitting at my PhD graduation dinner feeling something close to complete. I didn't know that the beginning of our end and the beginning of her plan were the same moment, separated by 3 days and a scratch on a door frame I hadn't noticed yet. I remember the first time I felt something was wrong. A Sunday. Tyson had come for lunch. He sat at our table, ate our food, complimented everything. "You have a good life here, Matthew," he said, looking slowly around our modest living room. "Not the way a guest looks, the way someone takes inventory." "We get by," Matthew said. Tyson smiled. Something brief moved through his eyes, not warmth. In hindsight, relief, like a man confirming a balance sheet was still in his favor. Children ran through Tyson's house in the background during visits. Cousins' kids, laughing, loud, always well-fed. I remember thinking they never seemed to go without anything. That evening, after he left, I found a small scratch on our front door frame, just above the lock. A symbol I didn't recognize, barely visible. I should have been looking carefully. In the white space after we died, I was shown things I was never supposed to see. One of those things was Chloe, 17 years old, sitting across from a sharp-faced woman in a room with no windows. The woman was explaining something, patient, methodical. Plunder system origin event, confirmed. Primary activating condition, sustained, directed malice toward a specific individual. Consent channel required for system tether. Standard method, financial transaction between host and target. I watched 17-year-old Chloe nod at everything, sign something. Then the memory shifted forward. Years. Chloe at family gatherings, smiling at me, hugging me at Christmas. And underneath all of it, that quiet, patient hunger. The scratch on the doorframe wasn't from Tyson. It was from Chloe. She had put it there the week after my PhD was confirmed. She came to congratulate me, brought something, hugged me. She insisted on paying for dinner that night, said it was her treat, for once. I remember laughing and letting her. It was such a small thing I didn't even think about it. The system started 3 days later. On her way out, she crouched near the door for just a moment. I thought she was fixing her shoe. The system started 3 days later. And in the white space, I saw exactly what that meant. I saw a golden thread, thin as wire, bright as sunlight, being pulled from Matthew's chest. Not cut, redirected, tied to Tyson's wrist instead. Like someone quietly rerouting a pipe in the walls of our house so our water flowed into their taps. Every opportunity Matthew almost had, every door almost open, every seed almost grown, redirected, stolen for 10 years. She had been the beginning, and I had stood in her presence 100 times, at weddings, funerals, birthdays, while she smiled and the golden light flowed out of our house, and I had felt nothing, suspected nothing. It took dying to teach me what I had never thought to study. The first year, Matthew got a senior position at a big company. He passed the interview. The manager shook his hand. Friday afternoon, we're going in a different direction. No reason. Just gone. Matthew sat at the kitchen table that night and didn't speak. I made tea, put it in front of him, sat down. Tyson visited that weekend. He sat across from Matthew, swirled his drink, and looked at him with the practiced weight of a man who has seen suffering and survived it. Matthew, a pause, long enough to feel meaningful. You know what I've learned in this life? The door that closes on you was never your door. The right one is still ahead, and when it opens, and it will, everything you've carried will make sense. Matthew nodded, because what else do you do? What I didn't know then was that the promotion didn't disappear, it redirected. The golden thread that should have tied Matthew to that job was quietly cut and handed to someone in Tyson's circle instead. That same week, Bryce, who had no particular qualifications, was offered a management role at a firm he'd interviewed for twice and failed. He took it, celebrated at Tyson's house. They opened something expensive. We had tea. The second year, I opened a small clothing business. 12 orders in the first week. Then the supplier canceled. The courier lost 3 packages, all mine. 2 clients stopped returning calls the same afternoon. 3 weeks. Nothing left. Tyson came that month, too. He always seemed to know when to come. He sat down, looked around the empty storage room like a man paying his respects. You know what separates those who make it from those who don't? He leaned forward. It's not talent, it's not timing, it's how you respond when the ground moves under you. And right now, Tessa, right now, you have a choice. You fold, or you become someone the ground can't shake. He meant it to sound inspiring. I thought it did at the time. What I didn't know was that the same week my supplier canceled, Mira launched a small import business with no particular experience. Her first supplier came through perfectly. Her first shipment arrived early. 3 clients referred her to 5 more within a week. By the end of the year, she had more orders than she could handle. She said she'd gotten lucky. She had, just not her own. 3rd year, Robert's farm got a disease. Lost every bird overnight. He walked into the kitchen at 6 in the morning, sat down, put his hands flat on the table. Julia looked at him. "They're all gone," he said. She sat down next to him, put her hand over his, and left it there. 30 years of marriage. You'll learn when words are the wrong tool. That same season, a distant cousin of Tyson's, a man who had never farmed a day in his life, inherited a small plot and tried poultry on a whim. Every bird thrived. He sold his first batch at double the expected price and called it beginner's luck. Robert's birds died for no reason the vets could identify. That man's birds lived for no reason anyone could explain. The system didn't care about fairness. It just moved things from one column to another. Our loss, their gain. Clean as accounting. Every time something good was about to happen, something invisible knocked it down. They were stealing our luck. We just didn't know it yet. The house got smaller. The meals got smaller. The smiles got smaller. Matthew worked 2 jobs. He came home so tired he sat at the door for 2 minutes before he could come inside. When I opened it, he'd say, "I'm okay," which meant he wasn't. Robert got up at 4 in the morning to tend what was left of the farm. Never complained, just moved when the world pushed him. Julia cut food portions without telling anyone. I caught her one evening scraping her plate back into the pot. "You didn't eat," I said. "I'm not hungry," she said. She was hungry. I looked at her. She looked away. Nadia was the oldest by 11 minutes and operated as though seniority was a sacred office. She organized everything. Rocks, leaves, the other 2. When she wanted something, she'd come and stand very close and look at you very seriously until you addressed her. Not demanding, just certain that you would. Theo was the loudest thing I have ever encountered in human form. He had opinions about everything. He narrated life as it happened. He was so relentlessly cheerful that even on our worst days, his voice in the next room felt like a small light left on. Eli was the quiet one. Enormous dark eyes that took in everything and gave back almost nothing. 9 years old and already had the stillness of someone much older. He watched people the way you watch fire, carefully, waiting to see what shape it takes. They were completely themselves, and they already knew not to ask for too much. Nadia stopped asking for the school shoes she needed. She found paper, folded it precisely, stuffed it into the old ones. Theo told me one morning he didn't like birthday cake anymore. He loved birthday cake. Eli said nothing. He just watched. That was the one that cut deepest. A 9-year-old with ancient eyes learning that the world didn't give things freely. And through all of it, the relatives kept visiting. Tyson always seemed to know the worst moments to appear. 3 days after the job fell through, the week the farm went silent, 2 days after the business collapsed. Always smiling, always saying the right things. I watched his eyes during one of those visits. He wasn't looking at Matthew when he spoke. He was looking at the walls, at the smaller furniture, at the signs of a life quietly contracting. Something in his face looked very much like satisfaction. 3 weeks before everything fell apart, Tyson came for dinner, unannounced, the way he always came. He brought wine, sat at the head of the table without being asked. After dinner, he pulled Matthew aside. I was in the kitchen, half-open door. "Hey, you're still here. If this story is resonating with you and you haven't subscribed yet, taking a second to do so really helps me keep creating stories like this. All right, let's get back to it." How is everything? Honestly, it's been hard. Still the money situation? It doesn't seem to get better no matter what we do, no matter how hard we work. Something always... Matthew stopped. I don't understand it. A pause. Tyson set his glass down slowly. "Matthew, listen to me." His voice dropped to something low and deliberate. the voice he used when he wanted to sound wise. Some men are builders. They lay the foundation, they carry the weight, they do the work that nobody sees. And the world doesn't always reward them the way it should. That's not failure, that's just the shape of certain lives. Silence. "I don't believe that," Matthew said quietly. "No? I think something is wrong. I just don't know what." Tyson looked at him for a moment. Then something small moved across his face. There and gone, too fast to name. "You're exhausted, nephew. Your mind is turning everything into a problem that needs solving. Some things just are what they are." He picked up his glass again. "Rest, and trust that what's meant for you won't pass you." I stood in the kitchen holding a glass I had forgotten I was holding. "What's meant for you won't pass you." He said it like comfort, like wisdom. What he meant was, nothing more is coming. I've already decided that. I was not imagining things. Meanwhile, Carl was closing on a house he shouldn't have been able to afford. Bryce had just received a bonus at the job that should have been Matthew's. Mira's business had just had its best quarter. Tyson himself had taken 2 vacations that year, bought new furniture, donated publicly to his local church, a man of visible means, visibly blessed. None of them had worked for any of it. They had just stood close enough to the pipe while it drained us dry. The sky looked normal. Julia was in the kitchen. Theo was narrating his breakfast. "This is porridge. It is warm. I don't like the lumps, but I'm eating it anyway." Eli watched a bird outside the window. Nadia had organized her spoon, cup, and bowl into a perfect line. The news was talking about a strange virus in one district. Nobody was panicking yet. Then my phone buzzed. "Containment failure confirmed. Multiple districts affected. Citizens advised to shelter in place immediately. Do not go outside. This is not a drill." I walked to the window. The neighbor across the street was sprinting, arms pumping, eyes wide. There was something right behind him, a zombie. "Matthew." He was next to me in 4 seconds. He said quietly, "We need to go." 1 ring, 2. "Matthew," Tyson's voice was careful, already careful. "Uncle, the city is falling apart. We need to come to your house, all of us, right now." Tyson had a big property, high walls, a generator, a gate with a lock you needed a key for. We had nothing. "Matthew, there are already many people here. It's your family. We have 3 children. I know, but..." "Uncle," Matthew's voice dropped flat. "People are dying in the street, right now. I am watching it from my window." A pause. 1 breath. "I'm sorry, Matthew." Click. Julia came in from the kitchen. She looked at Matthew's face and understood without being told. Theo opened his mouth. Nadia put her hand on his arm. He closed his mouth. Robert came in from outside, jaw set, shoulders back. "We run," he said. We made it 4 blocks. Then we heard it. Not 1 zombie, not 10. Hundreds, pouring out of the main road like water through a broken dam, filling every gap, every alley, every space. Matthew grabbed the triplets, Eli under one arm, Theo tucked against his side, Nadia gripping his hand. "This way! This way!" We turned back. We ran. We reached the gate. Matthew pounded on it. "Uncle, open the gate!" Nothing. Again. Again. We could hear movement inside, voices, low, muffled. Nobody came. "Please," I screamed. "We have children." Theo started crying, real fear coming out of a 9-year-old who had no container for it. Nadia pressed herself against the gate and said in her small, precise voice, please open the door." Over and over. Eli said nothing. He just looked at the gate, those dark eyes moving slowly across the wood, memorizing it. Matthew stepped back, looked at the top of the wall. Too high. Smooth. Nothing to grip. He looked at me. I looked back at him. That moment when a person realizes. Robert turned around first. He picked up a broken pipe from the ground. Heavy. Iron. "Get behind me." Get behind me. He swung, full force, connected. Again. Again. But there were too many zombies. One zombie grabbed his arm from the side, got its teeth in before he could pull away. Robert made a sound I had never heard from him. Not a scream. Something lower. Matthew grabbed the zombie, pulled it off, threw it down. Robert looked at his arm, then at Matthew, blood running down to his elbow, then at Nadia. She had stopped saying please, watching him, completely still. Then Julia. Go, he said. Matthew, go. Julia walked to Robert, not running, walking. She stood next to him and took the bleeding hand in both of hers. Julia, take the children. No, she said simply. They stood together. More zombies were coming, both ends of the street, no gap, no way through. Matthew pulled the triplets against him, all three. Theo had gone quiet, face buried against Matthew's chest. Nadia's eyes were open, watching everything. Eli looked at me. Those innocent, quiet eyes. Mama, are we going to be okay? I opened my mouth. Matthew looked at me. I walked to him. He put one arm around us, children between us. I pressed my face against his shoulder. I could hear the gate behind us, still locked. And behind it, behind that thick wood, I heard a floorboard creak. Someone was standing right there, on the other side, doing nothing. The darkness came fast after that. There was noise. There was Nadia's voice, very precise, saying my name once. Then white. Then silence. And then the memories. Everything white. No pain, no sound, no body. Just memory. Every moment of my life played back at once. But this time I understood things I had never understood before. Tyson at a meeting, documents, symbols I didn't recognize, our names on a page. I saw it again. That golden thread being pulled from our house and redirected, not once, hundreds of times. Every promotion Matthew almost got, redirected. Every business I almost built, broken. Every seed Robert planted that should have grown, killed. They were stealing our luck. That's all it was. That simple. That cruel. The scratch on the doorframe. 10 years. A quiet voice came, not human. A system reading a document. Plunder system detected. Primary host family confirmed. Assets extracted over 120 months. Categories: luck, opportunity, income potential, health margins, future growth. Total extraction complete. What is this? Matthew's voice was very still, past anger into something colder. Robert, are we dead? Julia wasn't speaking, just that quiet crying that means something inside has broken permanently. They were stealing our luck, all of it. Every failure, every door that closed, it was them. It was always them. Then Matthew, how long? Since the beginning, since the day we got married. Robert, the bite. Did I turn? We're all dead, Dad. Then Theo's voice, small and nothing like his usual self. Is this what being dead sounds like? It's very quiet. Nadia, are we together? Yes, I said. We're together. Eli said nothing for a long time, then, I knew something was wrong. I always knew. I just didn't know what. Nadia, why didn't they just ask for money? We would have given it. Nobody answered. Some people don't want what you'd give freely. They want to take, because the taking is the point. The voice returned. Rewind system activated. Criteria met. Death by betrayal during sanctioned survival event. Rewind window 45 days prior to outbreak. All memories retained by all family members. All extracted assets restored. Plunder system connection permanently severed. Tessa, infinity storage granted. Items stored will never expire and will gradually self-multiply. Matthew, mind link granted. Full drone network synchronization. Range and capacity will expand over time. Robert, fortification sense granted. Structural instincts heightened. Defenses built by his hands will hold beyond normal limits. Julia, supply amplification granted. Resources managed by her hands will stretch further than they should. Note, all abilities carry a cost. The cost will make itself known. I filed that last line away. Julia said quietly, "We're going back." Robert, immediately, "Then what do we do first?" "We don't fight them," I said. "We grow strong. We watch them fall on their own." Julia, "And if they beg?" I said. "We remember what Eli asked me." Nobody said anything after that. I opened my eyes. Our ceiling, old paint, small crack in the corner. Matthew was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, looking at his hands. "It's real," he said, quiet, certain, already calculating. "It's real," I said. Robert walked in first, stopped, checked his arm. No bite, no scar. He exhaled, long and slow, straightened his shoulders. "Right," he said, the voice of a man who has already decided to get to work. From the children's room, a beat of silence, then Theo, "We're alive! Nadia, we're alive! Eli, we're alive!" Eli, calm, "I know." Nadia, precise, "Stop shouting, Theo. I want Mama to hear me." I was already in the doorway. Theo, with enormous wet eyes, face halfway between crying and grinning. Nadia, with her arms folded and her chin up, composed, though her lip trembled just slightly. Eli sitting cross-legged on his bed, watching me with those deep, quiet eyes. "We remember everything," he said softly. "Yes, all of it." He nodded once. "Okay," like he'd already filed it and moved on. Nadia unfolded her arms. "What are we doing today?" Matthew wiped his face. "Are we having eggs? I want to talk about what eggs we're having." Julia was in the kitchen before anyone. Pen, paper, already writing a list. She looked up. 45 days. "Yes." She went back to writing. Julia didn't say a word. She was already at the table, dragging a notebook toward her, pen moving fast, columns forming before anyone else had even sat down. Rice, water, medicine, seeds, livestock. She flipped the page and kept going. Robert stood in the doorway for a moment, scanning the walls, the windows, the weak points. His hand pressed briefly against the frame, measuring, already calculating. Then he turned and walked outside without a word. Matthew was on his phone before I could speak, screens lighting his face. Maps, listings, parts. His thumb moved fast, precise, focused. I crossed into the next room and pulled the old cameras from storage, setting them on the floor one by one. Lenses wiped clean, batteries checked, wires untangled. Eyes, everywhere. The triplets stayed close. Nadia had already moved to Julia's side, reading the list upside down, reorganizing it in her head before quietly shifting items into a better order. Theo hovered near Matthew, watching every tap. "What's that? What does that do? Are we getting one of those?" Not waiting for answers. Eli said nothing. He stood near the doorway, watching all of us, not what we said, but what we did. No one needed to explain the plan. We were already moving. "We don't have enough money for this." "Check the account," I said. Matthew picked up his phone, went still. He turned the screen around. Robert exhaled sharply. Julia covered her mouth. Theo leaned in, eyes wide. "Is that a real number?" "It's what they took. It came back." Matthew scrolled through the account again, the numbers steady and real. Then his phone buzzed. A message from Mira. "Heard things have been tough. Let me send something. Family helps family, right?" Heart. He showed it to me. We looked at each other. No words needed. "Delete it," I said. He did. Then he blocked the number. One by one, we went through our contacts. Tyson, Bryce, Carl. Every name that had ever helped us with that gentle, practiced generosity.
We didn't argue, we didn't explain, we just removed the channel. The system had run on consent, on our grateful acceptance of their kindness. This time, we wouldn't give it. Not a cent, not a thank you, not a single thread for them to pull. Julia, who had been listening while writing her list, added a new line at the top of the page. No outside help, ever. She underlined it twice. Good, Robert said from the doorway. His voice was quiet, but final. We build with what's ours.
Julia left at 6 the next morning. Rice, beans, oil, salt, dried meat, medical supplies, seeds, tools, livestock. She filled 2 storage rooms. The next morning, she opened the door and stopped. More. Boxes she hadn't bought. Stacks she hadn't placed. The system chimed. Storage properties active. Contents self-replicating. She looked down at her hands. They were shaking slightly. Not from fear. From something deeper. A bone-level exhaustion that hadn't been there yesterday. Like her body had quietly paid for every box that appeared. She flexed her fingers, steadied them, then went back out to buy more. Nadia found her that afternoon, looked at the room once, stepped inside, and started sorting. Efficient. Precise. Good thinking, Julia said quietly. I know, Nadia said, without looking up. Robert hired 8 workers, blueprints drawn overnight, walls thick enough to matter, gates heavy enough to hold, locks layered, towers placed where sight lines overlapped. The foreman studied the plans. This is a fortification. Yes? Why? Do your job. Get paid. Go home. When do we start? You already did. By the end of the first week, Robert's hands were raw. The skin across both palms had cracked and blistered from the work. He wrapped them at night and unwrapped them in the morning and went back out. The system had given him a gift, and the gift had a price, and he paid it without complaint, because that was simply who Robert was. Theo spent most of the third day following the foreman around, asking endless questions about concrete. On day 9, the government came. Clipboard, sharp eyes. Robert handed over permits before she asked. This is extensive. I have a large family. And the fuel? Generator. I really hate losing power. She wrote something and left. Robert stood still until the door closed, then put both hands on the table. They were shaking. She'll come back, he said. Then give her nothing to find. She came back, found nothing, left again. Matthew worked differently. Day 11. The drone hit the fence. He didn't react, picked it up, fixed it, tried again. Crash. Again. The system updated. Mind link capacity expanding. Migraine severity increasing. Day 15. 7 drones in the air. Matthew standing still in the yard, eyes closed, jaw tight. The migraine was visible in the tremor in his hands, the tightness around his eyes that didn't go away. Pain ignored, always. Eli watched from the steps. After a while, he walked over. Does it hurt? Yes. Will you stop? No. Eli nodded, sat down beside him, said nothing else, stayed. I failed first, day 12. A cut across my hand. I tried to force it to heal. Nothing. Day 13, Theo fell, scraped both knees, ran to me with that tight, trembling breath before the crying starts. I knelt, put my hands over the wounds, didn't think about the system, just thought about him. The scrapes closed. Theo blinked. Oh. Don't tell anyone yet. He pressed his lips together, made a zipping motion, then ran back to what he was doing. Not by forcing it, by caring enough to forget you're trying. I put cameras on everything. 24 screens in one room. I labeled them all. Camera 7 had the clearest view of Tyson's property. I watched it every single day. On day 4, I noticed Chloe wasn't there. She lived alone across the city. Coverage on her side was thin. I marked her location on Matthew's map with a small dot and a question mark. I opened a second file, labeled it simply Chloe.
I didn't know yet what I would need it for. I was already certain I would need it. They had no idea. Day 6, Tyson threw a birthday party. Music, catered food, laughter. The Plunder system, now redirected to a different host, was still running, still draining someone else's opportunities, still making their life smooth. Carl bought a new car on day 8, his third in 4 years, each one purchased during a year when we couldn't cover our electric bill. Bryce had landed a senior director role the previous spring, a role he was not qualified for, a role he held confidently because confidence had always come easily to him, because nothing he had ever tried had ever failed, not once, not through any particular skill, just because the luck always seemed to flow his way.
Mira posted photos of a recent holiday, a resort. She looked genuinely happy. She was. Tyson sat on his porch at sunset on day 10, drink in hand, looking like a man who has never lost anything. Because he hadn't. Not one thing, not once. In 10 years. Every single thing he had was built on what he took from us. I watched him on camera 7, completely calm. I thought about the golden thread, about how many times it had been quietly rerouted while I wasn't looking. "Enjoy it," I said to the screen. Not for long. On day 3 of the zombie outbreak, I watched a man die on camera 7's peripheral feed. He had set up a tripod on the roof of a building 3 streets from Tyson's property, broadcasting live. Red cap, good teeth, the easy confidence of someone who has built an audience by being unafraid. Okay, so everyone's saying stay inside, but look around me. I've been outside for 6 hours and I'm completely fine. This whole thing is massively exaggerated. I'm going to walk to the market 2 blocks north and show you it's still... The camera jerked. He had stepped onto the fire escape. What he hadn't seen from the roof was the group of zombies pressed into the building's shadow below. Zombies don't make much noise. That's the thing people don't understand until it's too late. They don't announce themselves. The phone fell first. It kept broadcasting from the ground for 4 minutes. I watched all 4 minutes. Not out of morbidity, out of necessity. People still didn't believe it. Even watching it happen in real time, the comments were debating whether it was staged. Every person who went outside because he told them it was safe. I closed that feed, went back to camera 7, went back to work. I found out later what happened to Chloe in those first 7 days. Not from her, from survivor reports, radio intercepts, pieces assembled carefully. Chloe had supplies for about a week, smart enough for that much. What she wasn't prepared for was other people. Day 3, her neighbor forced his way into her apartment. A father of 2, looking for medicine for his children. He didn't threaten her, he asked. Chloe didn't have what he needed. She also didn't let him leave the way he came in. I will say only that the neighbor did not return to his children. Day 7, her parents came. They drove across the city to find her. Supplies, a car, a full tank, coming to save their daughter. I don't know exactly what Chloe was thinking. I know what she did. She arrived at the raider camp 2 days later with a working vehicle, a full tank, and supplies for 8 people. Her parents never made it back out of her apartment. She never mentioned them again. That is all I will say about that. The raider group operated out of the Western District. 12 people initially, growing to 30. Ordinary people who had decided the zombie apocalypse was permission. Chloe became useful to them fast. Intelligent, calm under pressure. She could plan. She found that she was good at this particular version of the world, where first place went to whoever was willing to go furthest. In that world, she was finally winning. I marked it all in her file. I didn't move yet. I was waiting to see if she would find me first. She did, of course. She always would. Day 15. Matthew drove to the other side of the city. James opened the door. Dark circles, tired eyes. "You look terrible," Matthew said. "Come in."
In 30 days, this city collapses. That virus? Zombies, James. It gets out of control. Every district. I need you to prepare. How do you know this? Don't ask me that. What do I need? Strong building, thick walls, food and water now. People you actually trust. Not many, quality over quantity. And if you're wrong, too many cans. That's all. James got up, got a notepad, sat back down. Tell me everything.
Day 45, 7:09 a.m. We were in the screen room at 6 in the morning. Nobody had slept. Julia sat straight in her chair with her hands in her lap, ready. Robert stood with his arms folded. Nadia was positioned between Theo and Eli, one hand on each of their arms. At 7:09, the emergency broadcast. All citizens shelter immediately. Multiple districts compromised. Do not go outside under any circumstances. This is not a drill. Robert sat down slowly. Julia took his hand. Outside, on camera 1, the street was gone. Not empty, gone. People running, falling, not getting up. A car on its side, someone's shoe in the road. Zombies filling every gap. The system voice came. Reward system activated. Phase 1 abilities now distributed. Matthew went still. I can see drone 5. I didn't turn it on. I can see through it, without the screen. He went pale. It's too much. All of them at once. Breathe, Matthew. Breathe. He breathed. His face changed, like a man learning to swim by going still. All 7, at once. I can feel exactly where they are. Theo tugged my sleeve. What's happening to Daddy? He's getting stronger. Is it going to hurt? A little, I said honestly. Theo nodded gravely. Okay. Julia opened the storage room, turned around immediately. The room was twice as full as yesterday. Boxes to the ceiling, items we hadn't ordered. She pointed to one bare shelf near the baseboard. I put canned peaches there yesterday. Now it's empty. The system chimed. Warning, void zone detected. Do not attempt to overwrite. Julia withdrew her hand, closed the door. Don't question it, she said. I'm not. Day 2. Drone 3 drifted too low. 3 survivors below it. 1 picked up a rock. Matthew, drone 3, up, now. He reacted instantly. The rock missed by less than a meter. One man started running, following the sound toward us. 2 streets, stopped, looked up. I watched him on camera too. 3 minutes, 4. I didn't breathe. He walked away. Drones stay above 30 meters from now on. No exceptions. Matthew was already adjusting. Day 4, camera 6, a woman. 1 leg dragging, ankle badly wrong. Not a zombie. Hurt. Open the side gate. Tessa? Look at her eyes. She's not infected. He looked. Clear eyes. He went and opened the gate. Her name was Amara, 34, a teacher. I knelt, put my hands over her ankle, thought about her pain and nothing else. Warmth moved through my hands. The swelling reduced, but the bone was still wrong. I'm sorry, I said. She shook her head. That's more than I had. That night, I figured it out. Not by focusing on the injury, by thinking about the person, by wanting them whole. I went back. Can I try again? She nodded without hesitating. I knelt, looked at her face, thought about her walking, teaching, standing. Something moved. Not in my hands. Deeper. My palms flared with burning heat. 2 red lines cut across both hands. Permanent, visible. I kept holding on. Amara's breath caught. The bone cracked into place. She stood up, walked to the wall, walked back, stared at me. Now I understand, I thought, and now I know the cost. We didn't go outside, but we helped every hour of every day. Drones high, supply drops to coordinates, radio open 12 hours a day, people calling on every frequency. Is anyone out there? Please. My children haven't eaten. Every call, send your location, drop in 20 minutes. The system rewarded us every time. Julia stopped measuring the storage room. She just kept sending things out. Nadia helped pack every supply drop. Theo narrated. This is rice. I hope they like rice.
Eli, do you think they like rice? Eli, loading cans. Doesn't matter if they like it. I know, but I hope they do. Day 8, system alert. Hostile group approaching. 12 individuals, armed. Estimated arrival, 4 minutes. 12, east, 3 with rifles. Matthew's jaw tightened. Bryce told them. Matthew's cousin, we'd sent him away 2 days earlier with food and directions east. He'd talked. 7 drones lifted. Silent. Lights off. Matthew turned the lights on. Full brightness directly above them. The group scattered. 2 raised rifles. 2 shots. Drone 4 took a hit. Spun sideways. Dropped.
Matthew's face went tight. Not pain. Loss. He sent the remaining 6 in fast. Tight circle. Close enough to hear the rotors. They ran. 90 seconds. Everyone gone. I felt it go down, Matthew said, quiet. Robert put a hand briefly on his shoulder. One firm squeeze. Let go. That was Robert's language. Hours later, 4 new drones appeared. Matthew didn't react, but the migraine hit him harder this time. Matthew almost smiled, just at the corners. Eli appeared in the doorway, looked at his father, walked over, sat down next to him, said nothing. Just stayed. Day 17. They grouped, Matthew said carefully. Thousands. Camera 3 confirmed it. A black river of zombies. Not a crowd, a flood. Shoulder to shoulder, filling the streets curb to curb, driven by the noise of a collapsed skyscraper, washing directly down our avenue. Robert, I said. He didn't run. He walked out the front door, crossed the yard, planted his boots in the dirt, put his bare hands on the heavy steel lock of the main gate. The zombies hit the north wall. It wasn't just a crash, it was a heavy, wet impact that vibrated up through the soles of our shoes. Then came the smell. Copper, old blood and sour rot, pushed over the wall by the sheer wind of their movement. Tens of thousands of dead hands pressing against concrete. The horrifying sound of zombie rib cages snapping and popping under the pressure of the horde, pushing from behind. They were crushing each other to paste just to get to us. The steel gate shrieked. The thick hinges groaned, buckling inward by a fraction of an inch. Just a fraction. Blood began to run down Robert's forearms, the skin on his palms splitting open as he poured everything he had into the iron. The system chimed. Mass impact event detected. Fortification level 3 limit tested. Structural integrity holding at 98.7%. 4 hours. The zombie horde breaking against Robert's design like black water against a stone, gnashing teeth scraping against steel. A collective, wet snarling that swallowed everything else in the world. He kept his hands on the lock the entire time. Not moving. Bleeding, but unbroken. Theo stayed pressed against Julia, completely silent for the only time I could remember. Nadia had her arm around Eli. Eli had his eyes closed. Not from fear. He seemed to be listening. When the last zombies cleared the street at sundown, leaving a thick, dark smear of ruined flesh across the concrete, Robert took a ragged breath and patted the gate twice. "Money well spent," he said, and went inside to make tea. Theo let out a very long breath. I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. "You were very brave," Julia said. "I was not brave. I was terrified. Those are different things." Julia pressed her lips together in the way that meant she was hiding a smile. That night, James moved 112 people to a warehouse complex 2 blocks north. Matthew called out every clear path, warned before anything got close. Not one person lost. "This is better. We can grow here." He called it Dawn Base. Survivors came from everywhere. James organized it the way good people organize things. Fairly, firmly, without cruelty.
One morning, the storage room wall had moved. The room was larger. Nadia stood next to Julia in the doorway. "The shelf is still empty." Nadia pointed to the void zone near the baseboard. "Yes, don't touch it." The empty space never filled. No matter how much the system gave, that shelf stayed untouched. A limit, or a warning. I stopped trying to understand it. Nadia nodded. She had already decided not to. She just wanted confirmation that she was right. On day 19, James called at 2 in the morning. His voice was different, lower. A boy, 9 years old. He got up in the night. The back gate wasn't locked. He opened it to look outside, just to look. How many zombies got in? 11, before anyone knew. How many of yours? 7 dead. 3 turned before we could. He stopped. 10 are gone.
11 zombies became 21 in a single night, because a child wanted to see what was outside. Lock every exit. No one opens a door from inside without 2 people present. No exceptions. Already done. Tessa, he was just a kid. I know. He just wanted to see. I know. I stayed on the line with him for a while after that. Not talking, just present. Sometimes that's all you can give someone. Matthew came and stood in the doorway. He had heard everything. He looked at me. I looked back at him. Neither of us said anything. Not everything needed to be logged. Day 22. The radio crackled on a frequency I almost never used. Tessa. I know you're out there. Someone is running supply drops. Someone has drones covering half the city. Whoever's helping them is smart and calm and organized. A pause. That's you. That's always been you. Hello, Chloe. You sound exactly the same, she said. You sound different. She laughed. Short, not warm. Things are different now. No more grades, no more rankings. How are you, Tessa? Is everything going well for the smartest girl in the room? I let that sit. Are you eating? I asked. The question caught her off guard. Yes, she said. Good. You're not going to ask me how? No. I heard about your family, business failures, bad luck. It wasn't luck, I said. No, she said. I suppose it wasn't. What do you want, Chloe? I want to come to wherever you are. We're family. We were family, I said. That can change. Some things don't. I clicked off, called Matthew in. She found us. What does she want? To be inside these walls, whatever I have. What do? We don't defend against her, we redirect her. I opened the Chloe file. 41 days of entries, radio intercepts, camera fragments, survivor reports cross-referenced and confirmed. 30 people, armed, mobile, 3 vehicles, targeting isolated survivor groups, taking their supplies, leaving them exposed. The Government Emergency Coordination Office had her group flagged, the Western Raiders. They had reports, witness statements. They didn't have a location. I had a location, movement patterns, 3 weeks of documented routes. I also had Tyson. I intercepted a transmission on day 14, Bryce talking to someone outside the house. 4 days to triangulate the signal. It was coming from Chloe's camp. On day 18, Tyson joined the transmissions. So there it was. The uncle who ran the system for a decade, Chloe who originated it, Bryce who always knew something was wrong and chose to turn outward, Carl, Mira. They were building something. I watched them do it. I let them. I called James on day 25. Listen to it all before you ask questions. Go, he said. I told him everything. What do you need from me? Contact the Emergency Coordination Office. Tell them you have location intelligence on the Western Raiders. Tell them you have a contact with surveillance coverage willing to coordinate a containment event. Do you trust the government people? I trust that they want Chloe's group off the board. Our interests align. That's enough.
She'll move on us within 10 days. The longer I don't respond, the more it confirms what she's always believed, that I think I'm better than her. That's her accelerant. She can't tolerate being ignored. Okay, James said. I radioed Chloe on day 27. I've been thinking about what you said. And? I'm not letting you in here, but James's base, Dawn base, large enough, neutral enough, they take in anyone who comes with good intent. They don't ask about history. I let that last part sit. Let her hear the implicit offer. I won't tell them what I know. Why would you do that for me? Because we're family, I said, perfectly flat. When? 2 days. She agreed. I clicked off and looked at Matthew. I told her she believed it because she wanted to. That's the only reason anyone believes anything. 2 government vehicles, 8 officers, positioned 3 streets north of Dawn Base, waiting. Matthew had 4 drones tracking the convoy from 2 kilometers out.
3 vehicles, 31 people. Tyson in the second, Chloe in the lead, Carl and Brees in the third. Chloe stepped out first, composed, well-fed, purposeful, looking at everything as she walked, taking inventory. The same way Tyson used to look at our living room. I recognized it now. James met them at the entrance. Calm, offered water, spoke about the base. Chloe listened. "You're well organized," she said. "We had good help," James said simply. "The person with the drones, is that person here? They don't come here in person," which was true. And then the coordination officers came in through the north entrance, not dramatically, just present and then positioned. "We need everyone to remain where they are." Chloe went very still. She looked at James. He gave her nothing. She looked around the room, at the exit she had already mapped. Then she looked up at the camera in the corner, looked at it for a long time, then said, very quietly, "She's watching." Not a question. They had supplies, strong walls, a gate. What they didn't have anymore was luck. The Plunder system was severed, and the difference was immediate, not just in the quiet moments, out in the blood and the dirt. Without stolen luck, there were just ordinary people in a zombie apocalypse, and ordinary people die. I watched it happen on drone footage. Day 8. Brees and Carl had taken a vehicle out to scavenge. They had always been reckless, but before, the universe always magically parted the waters for them. They would find unguarded food. The zombies would happen to be looking the other way. Not today. They turned down a narrow alley. 3 zombies at the end. Brees laughed, pulled his rifle. He didn't even aim properly. He never had to before. He pulled the trigger. Click. A jam. He racked the bolt. Pulled again. Click. The zombies lunged. Panic. Total, unfiltered panic. The kind of panic that happens when a man realizes the invisible shield he's worn his whole life is gone. Carl tripped over a piece of rebar, something he would have miraculously stepped over a month ago. He fell hard, twisting his ankle. "Brees!" he screamed. Brees didn't help him. Brees dropped the jammed rifle and ran, leaving his own brother in the dirt. Carl managed to scramble up onto a dumpster just as teeth snapped at his boots. He lived, but they lost the car, the guns, and the illusion that they were special. I watched the screen coldly. The universe wasn't protecting them anymore. It was treating them like everyone else. By day 10, it was the generator failing. By day 12, it was the food rotting. Each small failure that we had lived with for 10 years, they were now living with, one after another, and they had no framework for it, no resilience, no patience. Day 12. Brees sat across from Tyson, covered in dirt, eyes wild. "Why isn't anything working?" "Because Carl dropped the bags, because we traded badly, because nobody checked the water supply. Uncle, what happened to everything we built?" Tyson looked like a man who's been walking with a crutch for years, suddenly realizing he doesn't know how to walk. "We'll figure it out." "You keep saying that." Brees stood, walked to the door, stopped.
Uncle, what did you do to Matthew and Tessa? Silence. The silence was its own answer. Brees walked out. Day 14. The youngest aunt packed a small bag, walked to the front door. It's not safe here either. She looked around the room, at Carl's locked door, at Mira crying on the floor. She opened the door and walked out. Tyson didn't follow. 3 minutes later, a short scream from the street outside. One short, wet scream. Then the sound of tearing. Then nothing. I looked away from the screen. Tyson stood alone in his large living room. All that furniture, the imported table, the paintings, the thick rugs, things that meant nothing now. I watched him on camera 7, a man finally counting the cost, finding out the total, not liking the number.
Day 20. He found a radio. We have sick individuals. We have children. Supplies to offer and trade. Anyone please respond. Matthew. He's lying. They have almost nothing. Yes. Then I picked up the radio. Hello. His voice came back immediately. Hello? Who is this? Can you help? I said nothing. Just held the line. You don't know my voice? A long pause. Tessa? Yes. Tessa, thank God you're alive. We are in a very bad situation. Children, please. How many days has it been? 20. And before that, how many years did you use the Plunder system on us? Total silence. Not confused, caught. There is a difference. I know the difference. 10 years, I said. Flat. No anger, just facts. Every job Matthew almost got, redirected to Bryce. Every business I almost built, drained before it could breathe. Every harvest Robert almost had, handed to a stranger who never even asked for it. You took it all, year after year. You sat at our table and said the right things and ate our food and watched our children stuff paper into their shoes. And the whole time, the golden thread was running from our house to yours. And then when the city fell, when we ran to your gate, when I screamed, when we told you we had children, 3 children, standing in the street while zombies filled both ends of the road, I paused. Let it sit. You stood on the other side of that gate, and you did nothing. I heard something break in the line. A man starting to cry, completely, the kind of crying held back a long time that cannot be held anymore. I was scared. I panicked. I would take it back. Robert was bitten at your gate, I said. He died trying to hold the zombies off long enough for us to find a way through, at your gate, while you watched. He broke fully. Please, he said, broken. There are children here, the cousins' children. They didn't do anything. Please, just please help the children, please. When Eli asked me if we were going to be okay, outside your gate, I told him yes. He was crying too hard to speak. I was lying, I said, because of you. A pause. You were not family when we died. I turned off the radio. The room was silent. Julia was looking at the floor. Robert's jaw was tight. Nadia had her arms folded. Theo had his head bowed. Eli watched me with those dark, quiet eyes. Julia said, The children? Yes, I know. James, here. East of your position, 8 blocks. Children in a house. Bring the children out. Leave the adults. How many children? Find out. Okay. Just the children, Matthew said. Yes. Camera 7, pull it down. The screen went dark. That was the last we saw of them. They held Chloe's group at Dawn Base for 2 days. Armed raider group, documented attacks on isolated survivors, theft, violence, witness statements from 8 separate groups. James had given them everything. My camera footage, transmitted per channels I had set up on day 2 of the zombie outbreak. The evidence was meticulous because I had made it meticulous. She's asking to talk to you, James radioed. Put her on. Chloe's voice came through, flat, like someone who's run out of calculations. You set this up. Yes. From the beginning. From day 14, when I intercepted your transmission to Bryce. I should have moved faster.
You moved at exactly the speed your psychology required. You needed me to know you were coming. You needed me to feel it before you arrived. That's always been the problem, Chloe. You needed me to notice. I noticed. A long silence. I was better than you in things that didn't have rankings, she said, her voice almost wondering. Yes, I said, probably. But you had everything. I had a family that worked hard, a husband who sat at the door too tired to stand up, a mother-in-law who scraped her plate back into the pot, children who stopped asking for things at a young age. That was what I had. You watched us for 10 years and saw something I didn't see.
You were happy, she said, quietly, like it cost her something. I didn't answer that. They're going to put us outside, she said. Yes. Tessa, something underneath her voice, something I had heard before, at a gate, in a street, in the dark. There are some of my people who didn't know everything I was doing. Chloe. She stopped. Do you know what Eli asked me, outside a gate, while we were dying? Silence. He asked if we were going to be okay. He was a child, and I told him yes, because that's what you tell a 9-year-old when you're standing outside a locked gate and zombies are filling both ends of the street. You look them in the eye and you lie, because the truth is too large for them to hold. You built that moment. You and Tyson and the system you activated and the 10 years of stealing. You built exactly that moment. Silence. Then Chloe said, very quietly, I never surpassed you, did I? Not a question, not bitterness, just the flat recognition of something she had spent 20 years refusing to see. No, I said. No. Not once. Is there anything I can say? No, I said. There isn't. I clicked off. Screens glowing, family moving through the house behind me, Nadia's voice in the kitchen, precise and certain, Theo narrating something to Eli, Eli's quiet response. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt tired, and something underneath the tired, something that had been waiting a long time to be set down. I set it down. On the morning of day 32, the coordination officers walked Clubby's group to the east gate of Dawn Base. 31 people. The system had severed itself from them the moment we came back. The stolen luck? Gone since day 1 of our second chance. They just hadn't known it. Now they did. James stood at the gate. He didn't speak. He just pressed the heavy hydraulic button. The massive iron doors ground open, revealing the dead city. The sky was overcast. Shadows stretched long across the cracked pavement, and in the distance, echoing off the ruined skyscrapers, was the unmistakable, guttural shriek of a hunting horde. Tyson went first, his shoulders slumped, not looking back. Carl limped, looking at the ground. Bryce was the only one who turned before the gate closed. He looked at the camera on the east wall. He knew I would be watching. He looked at it for a moment. Then he nodded once. Not forgiveness, not bitterness, just I know, it's fair. Chloe was the last through. She stopped just outside, turned around, found the camera. Her pristine, calculated facade was finally cracking. Her eyes darted to the dark alleys, listening to the shrieks in the distance. The reality of her own mortality was setting in. In the wasteland, there are no test scores. There is no one to steal from. She looked directly into the lens, the way a person looks when they have finally stopped arguing with God. She said something. No audio on that unit, but I read her lips. 2 words. I know. She turned around and walked east into the zombie-filled ruins. The heavy steel doors of Dawn Base slammed shut behind her, the locking mechanisms engaging with the final, echoing thud. I watched camera 12 for 47 minutes. Then I turned it off. Some endings don't require witnesses. 3 months later. Dawn Base had 470 people,
3 connected buildings, gardens, medical wing, schoolroom, workshop. James called every morning. Supply convoy received. Thank you. 12 arrived from the north, taking them in. We need more of the medical kit, the one with the green label. We sent everything he asked for. He never talked about the night of the gate, but every morning report ended the same way. A head count. All exits secured. Some lessons don't need to be spoken to be carried. The storage room had no bottom anymore. Julia just kept sending things out, and every morning there was more. One day she found seeds she didn't recognize. Brought one to Robert. Winter crop, grows in almost any condition. Plant it. He did. 11 days later. That afternoon, I heard Robert laugh in the yard. Really laugh, at something Theo had said. I stopped in the doorway. I couldn't remember the last time I had heard that sound. It took me a moment to recognize it. Amara became the teacher. For the triplets, for 12 other children from neighboring groups. I walked past the classroom one afternoon. Nadia was at the board, teaching Theo and Eli. Theo was half listening, half watching a beetle on the windowsill, narrating it under his breath. Eli was watching Nadia with complete attention, just like always. I didn't go in. Nadia's voice, clear, confident, no paper in her shoes, no hunger in her eyes. Matthew had 22 drones now, a map on the wall, every safe route, every survivor group within 30 kilometers, shared with James, with 3 other bases, with anyone who could use it. He became something like a god of information. He didn't call it that. He just called it work. I had healed 41 people. 3 I couldn't help enough. Those 3 stayed with me. Because the moment you stop feeling the ones you couldn't save is the moment you stop trying hard enough for the ones you can. One night, I sat alone in the screen room. I thought about the shelf that never filled. Even now, with everything we had, something in the system refused to give without limit. All the cameras running, the city out there, broken in places, but slowly rebuilding. James came on the radio. People keep asking who helps them. They want to know who to thank. Tell them someone who learned what really matters. Is that enough? It's enough. I clicked off. Screens glowing soft in the dark. Family sleeping behind me. Walls solid around us. Storage room endless beneath us. My permanently scarred hands resting in my lap. I thought about Chloe that night, not with anger, not with satisfaction. I thought about a 17-year-old sitting in a windless room, signing something she didn't fully understand, motivated by a hunger that had probably started the first time scores were read aloud and my name came first and hers didn't. 20 years of that. I felt something I hadn't expected, not pity, not forgiveness, something quieter than both. I understand how you got there. I would still make the same choice. That was enough. I put it down. I turned off the screens, one by one. The room went dark. I stood up, walked to the bedroom, lay down, closed my eyes, and slept. The first real sleep in 10 years. We died once. We lost 10 years before that. We came back with nothing but memory, and we built something no system could ever steal. And at the end of it all, she stood outside a gate, looking at me through a camera. 2 words. I know. 20 years of running, and she arrived at the same place we did, outside looking in, with no one to open the door. And this time, when someone stands at our gate, we decide whether it opens. The end. If you enjoyed this story, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who loves dark fantasy, and subscribe for more zombie, horror, and revenge stories. I'll see you in the next nightmare.